Hello and welcome to our presentation on how software businesses can grow in challenging economic times. I'm Shar Dara and I'm a product lead at Stripe. A little more about my background. I founded a SaaS startup called Billflow in 2017. We partnered with Stripe to help SaaS businesses set up their billing in minutes with no-code tools. As collaboration deepened, Billflow and I joined Stripe in 2021. Now I focus on helping SaaS companies set up their self-serve and sales-led billing to accelerate revenue growth. We're going to discuss some innovative approaches to monetization and payments that can help your business not just get by in a shaky economy, but also to grow. We'll focus on 5 main areas: retaining and growing the revenue you already have, experimenting with pricing to drive retention and growth, tailoring your payments to your market, optimizing your engineering resources, and automating your back office. We'll also share some examples of how other companies have used Stripe to solve their problems. We hope that some of these examples will show tactical ways that you could use Stripe too. A quick housekeeping note, we'll be monitoring the chat for questions and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can throughout the webinar in the chat. But for questions that we don't get to, our sales and support team will try and reach out. So you probably noticed that we haven't been experiencing the rosiest economy conditions lately. Inflation is rising at historic levels. The majority of advanced economies have seen inflation rates double or triple over the past year. Interest rates are in turn climbing around the world. Consumers and businesses are tightening their belt, and more than 70% of consumers in Europe and the US say they're cutting back in their spending, according to Bloomberg News. And according to Bloomberg, consumer spending in Japan is also down more than 5% from last year. The technology sector has certainly not been spared. Global venture capital is down more than 50% from the same period last year, according to Crunchbase. All of this is putting pressure on software companies to find new and better ways to monetize and to prove product viability without increasing headcount or overhead. So a good place to start is to maximize the revenue stream you already have. Let's jump right in. First up is dealing with customer churn, the Achilles heel of subscription companies. There are 2 types of churn: voluntary churn and involuntary churn. Voluntary churn is when a customer isn't happy with the product, customer experience, or the price of the product. Involuntary churn is when a customer cannot pay due to payment failures caused by expired cards, insufficient funds, or outdated card details. This involuntary churn makes up for an estimated 25% of overall churn. In fact, Stripe has found that 9% of subscription invoices fail on their first charge attempt due to involuntary churn. We'll talk about some pricing strategies to help with voluntary churn later, but for now, let's start with the best ways to tackle involuntary churn. If you're mainly processing credit card payments, the best way to tackle involuntary churn is to get ahead of the potential payment failures. There are 2 types of payment failures: soft declines and hard declines. Soft declines are due to insufficient funds, expired cards, or card limits. A hard decline is a payment decline due to stolen or lost card, closed account, or invalid card details. We don't recommend retrying hard declines, but instead we recommend asking for another form of payment. Forrester did a study which they asked business leaders what were the primary reasons for soft declines, involuntary churn. And many of them said that it can be reduced with a billing system. A sophisticated billing system can update expired cards and automatically retry failed transactions on a customized schedule, for example, every 7 days. This increases the chances that the payment will be successfully processed. Advanced billing system can also automatically send emails or text messages when a card expires or a payment is declined. These messages can let your customer know that their card has expired because they themselves might not be aware of the involuntary churn. Other ways that you can reduce involuntary churn are sending an email to a customer and letting them know before their card has expired. This is called pre-dunning. Best practice is to send the pre-dunning message about 30 days in advance. You can also leverage in-app messages or in-product banners to let your customers know that their payment is about to expire. Lastly, if you have a customer on annual contracts, you can send them renewal reminders. Or if you have a customer on monthly subscriptions and their payment hasn't gone through, you can pause their account instead of deactivating it. Pausing it will make it easier for the customer to retain the account configuration once the payment goes through. All in all, it costs about 6 to 7 times more to acquire a new customer than to keep an existing customer. So you really want to make it easier for your current customer to buy your product and implement safeguards to help reduce involuntary churn. Not addressing involuntary churn is basically leaving money on the table. Now, let's talk about experimenting with pricing and packaging, which can help decrease voluntary churn. Software businesses should never have a set it and forget it attitude towards pricing. But in the current economic climate, taking a dynamic approach to pricing is more important than ever. Pricing, after all, is your greatest lever for revenue growth. It's typically far more impactful than investment in other areas. For example, it has more than twice the revenue impact than investing in acquisition and retention. A good pricing strategy is a value-based pricing. In other words, you charge based on the value you provide your customers. To know the price of the value you provide your customers, it's important to know how your users solve the problem without the solution today. You could, for example, be automating a highly manual process or making it easier to use a difficult existing tool. The idea is to assess how much the value of your solution provides is worth to your users. And that could be the baseline of your value-based pricing. Other great pricing strategies include offering a pricing tier for every buyer persona, or ramp pricing, where you offer a promotional introductory price, which increases over time, and offering discounts and pausing during cancellation. A flexible billing system can enable you to experiment with pricing easier without consuming development resources. If you want a deeper dive of SaaS pricing and packaging, Patrick McKenzie has written a great article about it. The link is on the screen and we'll also drop it in the chat. Next is tailoring your payments to your market. It's important to provide your users with a payment method they prefer, whether that's a credit card, a debit card, a digital wallet, as well as a bank debit and transfer methods that many businesses favor, like ACH in the US. Markets with high card penetration, such as the US and the UK, have seen a significant shift towards wallets like Apple Pay and Google Pay, which offer more security and convenience. Some markets, such as France and Japan, even have their own local card networks that help businesses reach more card users. In markets like Germany and Malaysia, where card use is much lower, bank-based methods are strongly preferred and trusted for online purchases. The banking networks in these markets typically offer a faster and more secure checkout experience, where users can authorize a payment using their bank account credentials. And remember, in addition to these regional differences, the payment method preferences are based on the size of the transaction. For smaller volume transactions, credit card payments are often the preferred method, whereas higher average volume transactions often mean customer wants to pay via ACH or bank transfer. In our latest State of Checkout report, Stripe partnered with Edgar Dunn & Company to analyze the top e-commerce websites. In that report, we have some great insights on offering global payments. Here are some of the stats. 93% of North American customers say it's important for a website to provide a common payment method in their country. On average, North American and European websites offer 4 different payment methods to cater for consumer needs. All of the above options don't have to put stress on you and your team. A good billing and payment product should support many different payment methods, automatically showcase the relevant payment option to your customers, and be easy for you and your team to set up. So to quickly recap the pricing and payment tips, it's important to 1, experiment with pricing, and 2, support localized payment methods. When both of these are done well together, they create a good experience for your customer and can help reduce voluntary churn. Let's now talk about automating your back office and optimizing your engineering resources. These both go hand in hand. By optimizing your back office, you can improve developer productivity. So let's take a closer look at 3 specific back office benefits that a billing solution can bring: invoicing reconciliation, accrual accounting, and taxes. Starting with invoicing reconciliation, B2B sales can leave long and complicated document trails, including paper and PDF invoices. Reconciling invoices can be a major drain on your resources and can result in costly human error. A PwC study found that business partners spend close to 30% of their time on data reconciliation. A billing system that offers auto reconciliation will automatically match outgoing invoices with incoming payments, saving your accounting and finance teams with the task of manually matching them. Next, accrual accounting is another area ripe for optimization. Plan changes, refunds, disputes, and prorations can all complicate the process of recognizing revenue for subscription-based businesses. A better solution will simplify this process without requiring extra engineering resources or time-consuming configurations. And lastly, taxes. Tax rules and rates change constantly, and they vary based on what and where you sell. There are more than 11,000 tax jurisdictions in the US alone, including states and counties. Value-added tax rates, or VATs, differ across more than 170 countries globally, including all European countries. A robust billing system can automatically monitor your tax obligations and collect the right amount of tax based on where your customers are located. And it will instantly surface the information you need to file in each location. Now to our final tip: optimizing your engineering resources. Many SaaS businesses try to build a billing solution themselves, but they quickly discover that this can be a very heavy lift. A homegrown solution needs to be able to support new product launches, pricing experimentations, global expansions, changes in regulatory requirements, and many other challenges as the business grows. This can ultimately result in having to divert your engineering resources from your core product into the homegrown solution. With the right billing solution, you can offload these complex tasks and save your business time and resources. While any billing solution should be customizable, it should also handle the following 6 basic tasks without adding overhead. It should accept recurring orders, set flexible billing logic, collect recurring payments, minimize voluntary and involuntary churn, integrate with internal systems, and monitor key business metrics. If you're considering a third-party billing system or switching providers, we put together this list of decisions criteria to help you evaluate a billing system. You can find the link on the screen or in the chat. Before we move to Q&As, let's recap some of the ways that SaaS businesses can adapt and grow in current economic climate. Plus, I'll add some quick proof points from some of our customers. First, retain and grow the revenue you already have by reducing involuntary churn. As I mentioned, you can do this by sending automatic messages to your customers when their card is about to expire. Send automatic message reminders to your customers when annual contract renewals are coming up. And have a billing system that can update expired cards automatically and retry failed payments. Here's a quick example from Twilio. Twilio saw a 2% increase in revenue by using the card account updater from Stripe, which intelligently updated saved cards that have expired or been replaced. Another example is digital health platform Noom. Stripe Billing helped Noom reduce involuntary churn caused by missed payments or declined cards through features such as smart retries and card account updater. With smart retries, Stripe retries failed payments at the optimal day and time in order to improve the acceptance rate of recurring payments. Second and third tips were to experiment with pricing to drive retention and growth and tailor payments to your market. You can re-examine and revise your pricing strategy to better align your pricing with the value you offer your customers. You can also let customers pay with their preferred local payment method and offer ACH and bank transfer for higher order volume transactions. Here's another quick example. JotForm, an online form building platform, implemented Stripe Checkout as the preferred payment integration to offer its users. By adding Stripe, JotForm offered its users over 20 plus local payment methods on web and mobile, and the popular payment methods for the regions would automatically showcase based on the customer's device and location. One of JotForm's users saw a 67% increase in conversion rates. And the last tip were to automate your back office and optimize your engineering resources. Stripe has found that about 75% of our customers first started with their own homegrown billing solution, but then moved to Stripe. A homegrown billing solution may not scale as your business grows. As I mentioned, you want a billing solution that can accept and collect recurring orders, set flexible billing logic, minimize churn, integrate with internal system, and monitor your business metrics. For example, Figma first considered building up these capabilities in-house, but they soon realized that this would be a major drain on their time and resources when they needed to focus on growth. So the company turned to Stripe. With Stripe, Figma was able to scale up in dozens of markets around the world and achieve greater data visibility without sacrificing engineering resources or expanding headcount. In fact, the company was able to keep its finance team below 10 members. Before we move into questions, I want to leave you with the last additional resource. We have a quick guide that goes over the concepts in this webinar. If you want to read it as a takeaway, the link is on the screen and we'll also drop it in the chat. Okay, I'll now answer a few questions, and for those of you who submitted questions beforehand, thank you. First question. What are top suggestions for founders who are focusing on surviving the upcoming economic uncertainty? Great question. My best advice would be, 1, focus. Narrow down your focus to your most important user persona. Your product might be solving a problem for a few different use cases and buyers. Each buyer persona might have a different need, and addressing all of them at the same time might prevent you from solving one really well. So focus. 2, stay data-driven. Make sure you know how users are using your product and have a North Star metric that tracks your success. As you experiment with everything I mentioned, keep track of the progress of your experiment with pricing, onboarding, and dunning. And the last one, and perhaps the most important advice I can give, continuously talk to your users. Be a users first business. Talk to them, understand their needs and their feedback to improve your product. Next question. What Stripe tools are accessible today to best improve involuntary churn? Stripe Billing has few handy features to recover involuntary churn. To name some of them, Smart Retries. It'll automatically retry involuntary failed payments at optimized day and time to increase recovery. No-code customer portal. Stripe has a hosted account management surface that allows your customers to update their cards without needing any integration. Automatic failed payment reminder emails. Stripe automatically sends emails to your users who have failed payments with a link to update their payment information. And Stripe Card Account Updater, which intelligently updates saved cards that have expired or been replaced. All right. Next question. Does Stripe have any ability to create dynamic pricing based on the buyer's location? Clients in certain regions of the world have different willingness to pay than the US. Absolutely. Stripe has a no-code and low-code surface called the pricing table, which allows you to dynamically show your pricing on your website or your SaaS app. You can offer different currencies within different pricing tables and show the right pricing table based on the user's location. All right, this brings us to the end of my presentation. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me, or you can also reach out to our sales team with the link on the screen and they can answer your questions too. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great rest of your day.